guys, welcome to Totallyevelyn. Today's video, I'm going to be talking to someone who married a psychopath. She went on a dating site, met someone who she loved, fell in love with, and never thought for 1 minute that he was a psychopath. And he married so many others as well. Want to hear her story? Join me after this short break and we'll get right into it. I'm sitting right up in the Royal Mile and it's a bit windy. See you right after this short break. For you for turning your life around, a complete inspiration, absolutely amazing. Mary Turner Thomson, and she's wrote a book, The Bigamist. Our new book will be coming out next again year, and that's called The Psychopath. Simple names, it's not a simple read. It will have you on the edge of your seat. Actually, as gripping as what I was like with the book. I was loving it so much. I told Will quite a few names as I went through the book. I was like, oh my goodness, my mouth was wide open. It's a fantastic read, guys, so I would definitely encourage you to get the book. And your website, Mary, is www.maryturnerthompson.com. We've all met the man back in the day who we thought was a psycho, who we thought must have had narcissistic issues or whatever, or we've always sort of tried to do our own research after, not before. And this is what you say now is, why don't you do a bit of research before you go on a date, get some information first?
It's one of the things. I got caught because I didn't know. I thought there was more chance of winning the lottery than there was of actually meeting a psychopath. And I thought more rare. Do you know what I mean? I didn't realize that actually 1% of society, that's 1 in 100 people, are psychopaths. And that is 1 in 100 that are out and out full-blown psychopaths. There's about 15% of society who are on the spectrum. Yes. And when you realize those statistics, you suddenly go, actually, if you've not been affected by a psychopath in your lifetime, you are incredibly lucky.
Really?
So, and it's like once you want to start finding out about psychopaths, you realize that actually you go, that's why such and such behaved that way. That's why that happened. And you start looking back and realize they're not all serial. Like, actually, that's what I was going to say, Mary, because people would have this picture when you think of like the psychopath, you think of like the film Psycho, or you think of, you've got a picture in your head. That's what's so funny. The film Psycho, with the shower scene and the that's what envisages when they think psychopath. But actually, he wasn't a psychopath. He was psychotic.
Yes. Right?
He wasn't rational. He was seeing things that weren't there. That is not a psychopath. That is somebody who is psychotic, who is detached from reality. A psychopath not. A psychopath is completely in touch with reality, knows exactly what's going on. They just have no emotion, no empathy, no chemical empathic response to other people, and therefore they to them we are Sims characters. You know, then we are ants in a farm for them to play with. They have no more emotion to us or their own children than that. So you know that is a very different thing to the stabby serial shower curtain image that we have. And it's like when you start to realize that, you know, you use the term psychopath, people think you're being really, really dramatic. But actually, kind of Hollywood that has twisted what psychopaths, very few psychopaths are serial killers, but almost all serial killers are psychopaths, if that makes any sense.
Wow. Right, tell us your story. We want to hear your story that you can learn from and teach your children as well. Like, you know, teaching your family is really most important, because I've got 3 daughters. And I would love them to be tuned into this.
The more people that know and understand, maybe 1% of society, but we are the 99%. You know, and if the 99% knew and understood about the 1%, they wouldn't have the kind of power they do.
Yeah.
Because it's like you just realize that, you know, it doesn't have that kind of effect on you.
It sounds horrible to say this because it makes you feel that way, but did they prey on the vulnerable?
Not the vulnerable, they prey on the empathic.
The what?
The empathic.
The empathic,
so, psychopath is a sequel to the bigamist, and the psychopath is the 14 years of knowledge that I have of psychopathy, that I have researched on a daily basis for the last 14 years. 14 years of knowledge confined into one book about him, about seeing my story from that distance as well, how we become the victims. And one of the things that was a complete revelation to me writing the story was a scale of psychopathy. Up to 15% of society are psychopaths. What I thought was that 85% of society, therefore, were empaths. And I was wrong.
Right.
not. There's a scale of empathy the same way as there is a scale of psychopathy.
Right.
So, and I started doing the tests, and I score very, very highly on
yeah, you were an independent woman. You had your own house and everything. You had your own independence. You know, you didn't look to anyone for anything because you were giving it all to yourself. So you were in a situation where you were doing extremely well at that point.
Yeah. And I'm no numpty. I'm no idiot.
I know. Yeah, it's true.
I wasn't naive because I didn't know that people like him existed.
Yeah.
But it's not. I wouldn't say it's vulnerable that they target. All right, but it is the empathic. So it's like you, as I say, you've got this sort of scale of empathy as well. So you've got this end of empaths and this end of psychopaths, and in the middle you've got perfectly decent, reasonable, ordinary people who don't have that sort of high empathy like I do. So when a psychopath would turn around to somebody and they'd say, "Oh, I had a terrible childhood," an empath will turn around and go, "Oh, I'm so sorry. What can I do to help?" Right? The people in the middle would go, "Well, how's that my problem?"
Yeah.
And they would just go, "Well, so why are you telling me?" All right? Yeah. They will not become targets.
Right, I see what you mean.
The way I was brought up, the way I am, the chemical response I have in my brain is very high. So when I can't watch those memes, the memes that my teenagers watch where there's a skateboarder that falls over and bangs his head and lands on his neck. I actually feel physical pain when I see it. So you see someone shook in their hands and your hand hurts. That is actually a chemical empathic response. All right. The psychopathic have zero. They don't feel any physical chemical response to seeing other people in pain. But there are people in that middle range who recognize that would be painful, who can sympathize, who empathize to a degree, but it doesn't affect them in the same way as it does people who are highly empathic.
Tell us all about what happened initially when you met Will
Jordan. Yes. I was 35, single mother, 1-year-old child, a professional. I was working as a business advisor for the Scottish Enterprise Network. So I was a professional busybody telling people how to run their businesses better. My friends turned around and said, "There's this newfangled thing in the year 2000 called internet dating. You must try it. You're single." And I kind of had everything. I wasn't really looking. I wasn't desperate. I didn't really feel I had to have a relationship, but I was still kind of in that mindset that we women are kind of put into, which is thou shalt look for a relationship whether you want one or not.
Yeah.
It just took me a long time to get out of that one. But the kind of social construct trap that we get told that as little girls we're going to grow up and get married. So why not? I'll try. So what could possibly go wrong? And I met a chap called William Allen Jordan, and it became a kind of whirlwind romance. It swept me off my feet. One of the first things he told me was that he was infertile. He couldn't have children because of a bad bout of mumps as a child, and so it was rather a surprise when 5 months into the relationship, I got pregnant. Together for 2 years, we got married, and then we were married for 4 years. I'm shortening the story, very well. I'm shortening the story. The second year of our marriage, things started to go rather horribly wrong. He was being effectively blackmailed by somebody who was threatening to kidnap the kids and rip bits off them and send them through the post unless we came up with money to stop them. And by this stage, I was so involved in the stories that he was bringing up that I actually gave him everything I had. I sold my flat, I sold my car, I sold my life insurance policy, I sold everything I had to keep my kids safe, because we had 3 children by that stage. My previous daughter. On the 5th of April 2006, I got a phone call from his other wife. She had 5 children to him. She told me about the nanny who had 2 children to him. She told him about a child that was born in America when he was 16 years old. He has 14 children by 8 different women, and he's not infertile at all. He actively impregnates women to rip them off for money. He took me for £200,000 and left me £56,000 in debt, and homeless with 3 small children, 7, 4 and 1 years old. Whilst he was married to me, he was also engaged to 5 other people.
What's up?
Not to mention as well, he's also a convicted paedophile.
Right, I know. That's... How do you cope with all that? Oh my goodness.
It's one of the psychopath checklist things. The grandiose sense of self-worth, pathological lying, criminal versatility, and that's, he really, he's bigamy, firearms, fraud, and not registering his address under the Sex Offenders Act that he was charged with in 2006, and he got 5 years in jail. The justice system did us proud for that one now, but there was one really fascinating situation. A friend of mine turned around and said she was dating this guy and that his wife had died many years ago and his two older daughters. Her ex-husband had actually been murdered. As a result, she was getting a life insurance policy, was considering putting this money into this investment. And I kind of just said, oh, hold on just a second. Let me ask a couple of questions. And she said, what? And I said, are you sure the wife is dead? And she was like, yeah, of course. And I said, have you checked?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, no, I mean, who checks? When somebody says widow, who actually checks? Well, right? Yeah. But if you've been burnt, you know, you kind of go, check the baseline. And she checked, and it's like, whilst she was actually having dinner with this chap in Scotland, his wife was actually in the news having dinner with Michelle Obama.
Oh my goodness.
And she just suddenly went, oh my God. And it just, it just suddenly, you know, changed everything. And she said, now I know why he wouldn't let me meet his adult daughters and stuff. You know, because they were traumatized from the wife's death. We make assumptions that when someone tells us they've got cancer or someone tells us their partner has died or some news like that, that we feel, especially if we're empathic, that we feel is hurtful to them. We don't tend to go, okay, I want some evidence of that, please.
That is true.
People often ask me, how did I react when I found out my husband was a bigamist? It was actually like getting a get out of jail free card, because by the time that happened, life was so horrendous that actually to find out it was all just him. There weren't these shadowy figures after us. I mean, that is coercive control to the absolute, you know.
Get one signed. Yeah, I've got mine signed.
Yay. Well,
for this man to try to keep up his charade after your book was out, wow, the audacity.
He changed his name several times.
Has he?
He changes his age. He's getting younger all the time.
Oh, is he? Right, okay.
Currently 55 years old, but to the 19-year-old, she was just turned 19 when she had the baby. He had told her he was 35.
Yes.
He's 55. So, but I'm getting contacted by people every month. I get another contact from somebody who says, I'm a landlord and I've just found out who's living in my apartment, and I'm a lady who's just had a relationship with him.
Just can't help yourself. Right now, I'll give you a big cuddle and a kiss. Love it so much. So much.
Brilliant.
Take care. Bye, Mary.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Hey guys, what did you think of that? Oh my goodness, that is some book ending. So if you're struggling to think of ideas of what to buy for Christmas, I would buy The Bigamist first. Start with that and then move on to the sequel. Oh, that's better. As you can see, she's turned her life around, and good on her. Absolutely beautiful woman inside and out, and she's there for you to help anyone who thinks, you know, that they may have married or started a relationship with either a sociopath, psychopath, or a narcissistic. One thing that I really learned from that was I have this tendency just to believe them. And what she's saying is, do some research, guys. How many people have never did any research when you go out with a boy? I mean, I think we've all been on Tinder and swiped right, and we've all went out on dates. And who knows who you're meeting? So do a bit of research. Find out, first of all, does he have any friends? Can people vouch for what he does? And this is what she was saying. I think it's sound advice. I think it's a great Christmas present. So go get the sequel, but buy The Bigamist first. You'll not put it down. If you're like me, you'll not put it down. Listen, guys, thank you so much for watching. Try and get out of this close in Edinburgh. The old stamp office close in Edinburgh on the Royal Mile. So beautiful, isn't it? So guys, listen, do remember to subscribe, like and share, and don't forget to hit the little bell for your notification. Lots of love, happy Christmas shopping. Mwah.